Pop quiz, which Pokemon has the ability Cacophony? That's right, none of them. But why and how is that the case? Well, last week I was scrolling through a list of every Pokemon ability while I was designing some Fakemon, and not too far down the list was this ability, Cacophony. The in-game description is that it, quote, avoids sound-based moves, which was immediately suspicious, because that's basically the same as the ability Soundproof. Apparently this ability was never given to any Pokemon, but it still exists in the data for Generation 3. These being the games that introduced abilities, I guess it makes sense for at least one to be created but never used, as it was removed in future games. The funny thing is that there are other Pokemon abilities that have the exact same effect as one another. No similarities or slight differences, these ones do the exact same thing, just having different names. Like how Psyduck's Cloud9 and Rayquaza's Airlock both eliminate the effects of weather in battle. This is mostly for lore reasons. Psyduck ignores weather because it's just so blissfully unaware, while Rayquaza's powerful airstream that follows it just blows away any weather. It would hurt if you touched a Ferrothorn, but not because of its rough skin, that's because of its iron barbs. So once in a while, two similar abilities will exist with different names. But if that's the case, why wasn't Cacophony kept in the game? And what Pokemon would have had it? Well, thankfully, the reason has potentially been sussed out and documented on Bulbapedia, because a certain Loudred card has a move with the same name, at least in Japanese. Seems like barely a thread of a connection, but when you think about it, this is totally reasonable. Whismur, Loudred, and Exploud were introduced in Generation 3, when this ability was added, and they're all sound-based Pokemon with the ability Soundproof. The word Cacophony means a harsh, discordant mixture of sounds, and that describes these Pokemon perfectly. So the original reasoning was that while most other Pokemon with Soundproof would avoid sound-based moves because they're well insulated or have a protective shield, say like Voltorb or Mr. Mime, the Exploud line avoids sound-based moves because they're just making too much noise of their own to even hear what's going on. But sometime during development, it was likely decided to just give them Soundproof instead, because it still fits these Pokemon thematically. Whismur's ears close up and are meant to look like earmuffs anyway. This even helps to make it more of a passive ability, because with Cacophony, these Pokemon would have to be constantly making noise to avoid sound-based moves. Even when going into the future of these games and looking at the Pokédex, I can't really think of too many Pokemon the ability Cacophony would make sense for thematically. Maybe Chatot? In the end, it's just a byproduct of the innovation Generation 3 brought with Pokemon abilities and sound-based moves, which is one of my favorite mechanics in Pokemon. It was actually off to a pretty good start. Even back then, Soundproof could be used to avoid most sleep-inducing moves that you would encounter in trainer battles, and is a great way to nullify the damage that you would take from Sonic Boom early on. The way that the games are nowadays, I doubt we'll see another ability like this that ends up getting forgotten and never even attached to a Pokemon. And so that was the weird little history of Cacophony, the one ability that no Pokemon has. Thank you to all my channel members who make videos like this possible, especially Justin R, Mr. Pig Puncher, and Quago. If you want to support and have your name shouted out here, you can become a channel member as well, and get access to some cool emotes for comments and live streams that I'm very proud of. You can also follow me on Twitter for more memes. But anyway, this has been GatorX, and I'll catch you later.
Pokemon? Meet Pinball. There's a new way to try and catch them all. And Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire. Only for Game Boy Advance. Rated everyone.
A Jigglypuff! It's so cute! Are you gonna sing?